this theory has been tested statistically and show that it's hard to be supported by real data to forecast the short-term exchange rate change by this theory. The reason is this empirical test has some technical hardship. The first is the selection of price indicator results in the different purchasing power parity. Second, the subjective of commodity classification may distort this parity. Thirdly, this parity requires the exchange rate in base period, the E0, to be the equilibrium exchange rate, so that it's difficult for the researchers to determine in the empirical test how the equilibrium can be achieved. So for the developing countries, people tend to overestimate their actual quantities, while for the developed countries, people tend to underestimate the actual quantities. While in the short run, the exchange rate will temporarily deviate from the purchasing power for various reasons. For example, the price stickiness prevents the price from adjusting freely in the short run. And in the long run, the parity has some explanatory power for the determination on the long-term exchange rates. Moreover, in the period of severe inflation, especially the hyperinflation, the change of exchange rate and the price tend to be consistent, which significates the purchasing power parity effectiveness. Some scholars believe that the change of real factors will cause adjustment of real exchange rate and the nominal exchange rates, so that the nominal exchange rate and the purchasing power parity has a long-term deviation. The main practical factor includes the change of productivity and consumer preference, a discovery of natural resources, the difference in natural and economic endowments, diversified economic policy, and change of international trade regulation. So we overall assess this purchasing power parity as a whole. In general, it plays a very important role in the Western exchange rate theory. The idea is that the exchange rate change in the long term are consistent with the long-term change in the price in various economies. Is undoubtedly of the great importance. And the purchasing power parity provides the scientific methods of comparing national economies worldwide. The purchasing power parity doesn't reflect the quality difference of same products made in different countries. CASIL, the purchasing power parity, holds that parity determines the currency value, rather than the currency value determines the purchasing power parity. And this theory logically reverses the consequence and the cause. However, this parity is grounded on the law of one price as its assumption, as people generally believe that although the economic globalization trends exist, the assumptions deviate from the practical reality in the field of international trade and finance. The law of one price relies on the restrictive assumptions, such as the perfect competition factor and the product mobility, which are hard to realize in the practice. The trade barriers, restrictions on the financial flow, and the transportation costs prevents the goods, capital, labor, and service from being freely traded internationally. And even if the factors and the products are on the perfect competitive market, different economies and ethnicities have varied in content and form of their demand preference. And it's hard to believe a universal price is applicable to them. The monopoly and the oligopoly governing the commodity market and the currency market make the perfect competition market impossible. They also prevent output factors from flowing freely and deviate prices in transactions between economies on same output and financial products. Generally speaking, the law of one price proposes an ideal situation and is the convergence trends in the real economy. So you can have any questions?